Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Tales of Evil, and it's from Escape Studios. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page to find out more information than I could possibly tell you here. To do that, you're going to follow the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That will take you directly to the Kickstarter page, and hopefully you'll consider backing the project. Now, Tales of Evil is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players where you and the other players are teen investigators who are part of this club called the Pizza and Investigation Club that one of the characters started. And you're banding together to go on adventures after school and on the weekends, of course, to go to scary places or places that are known for being very frightening to some of the other people in the neighborhood. But the reality is, as far as the game goes, there actually are scary, evil things there to be discovered. And you have to work together to overcome the challenges involved with these scary places and haunted places and defeat the evil that's there, discover some really cool stuff and new items for further adventures, so on and so forth. But of course, it's not that easy, and the terror might overcome you. And I don't mean the giant bear from the TV show, but maybe later. But the most interesting thing about the game is that there's actually a whole storybook that you go through and important choices that you have to make along the way, of course, in a cooperative fashion. It's just a little bit more complicated than that, of course. So let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype copy of the game. So please do bear in mind that what you see here is going to change in the final version. There will be nicer components and things like that, especially with regards to the storybook. But this should give you a good idea of how the game is going to play, and then in any event, we will come back and discuss it further. Tales of Evil is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. Each player is a teen investigator in the Pizza and Investigation Club, hereafter known as the Brave Ones or Braves. When not at school, these Braves band together to investigate and uncover dark and scary incidents around town. By following through the story in each adventure and successfully completing your objectives, you'll be successful and move on to new stories. But if you can't meet your objectives, or terror forces all of you to flee, or if some dark evil catches up to you and eliminates you, then you and the other Braves will end your adventure in defeat. The most important thing to note up front is that the full game will have a large storybook, which is the guiding force of each game session. Pictured here is simply a tutorial storybook for the beta copy of the game. But the premise is the same. One player will read the selected chapter of the book as you go along and follow any special instruction for setup, then go through page by page, reading bits of story as the Braves progress, but also changing the game as objectives and enemies come into play. After making sure of whatever special setup your story has, everyone will take a Brave to represent them. The backs of each player sheet will have some backstory that you should each read out loud to enhance the experience. The front of the sheet is the same for everyone. In the center, you'll place a stack of status cards, stacked face up from 1 to 4, and also 3 battery tokens nearby. Status cards tell you your body, mind, and scare stats, as well as your stats in attack, defense, strength, courage, dexterity, and perception. These are different for every player. At the beginning of the game, take body, mind, and scare tokens equal to your scores. Some failed tests and creatures will cause you to lose body and mind tokens, and if you lose all of them, you'll have to lose scare tokens instead. If all of your scare tokens are gone, you'll have to flip down to a lower status card, weakening your stats, but regaining tokens equal to your new totals. In addition, you'll have to draw a trauma card and resolve it. These could force you to draw dangerous event cards, lose tokens, weaken stats further, or even make you attack your friends. Each Brave gets their own set of action cards, which are special abilities only your character can use. They can help you pass tests or avoid event cards. Many of them directly aid other Braves by giving them tokens or taking tests in their place. Every adventure will use a set of special cards that are numbered. During either the setup or the course of the story, you'll be told to draw certain numbered cards. In the case of this tutorial, the first 10 cards are special weapons unique to each Brave that should be equipped to them, as well as special trash can lids for defense. All of these things will improve your stats, but may also have special abilities as well. If you play with Daphne and her staff, she will gain access to special right cards, which are spells that can aid the group, though she's limited to level 1 at the beginning of the game. The storybook chapter will tell you which tile to lay out in the playing area first, as well as which specific zone of the tile you should place miniatures representing the Brave Ones. You may also need to place tokens to start, like the search token here, and you will most certainly have to do more token placing later. There are also other tiles you may need to visit during the course of the adventure. Near the tile, you'll place the tracking board, with a token representing the group in the middle, and a terror token on one end of the track and panic token at the other end. If circumstances ever force the terror token to go up the track or panic token to go down the track, and one of them gets to the group token, it's game over for the players. Near that board, you'll make a stock of the various tokens in the game, match tokens in various lengths for when a random brave must be chosen, and the game dice. Each 6-sided die has the same faces. There are hits, which signify successful attacks, spiders, which are bad and can force you to discard another good die, turtles, which can eat spiders and count as one hit, and flashlights, which allow a brave to spend battery charges to activate the special ability on some equipment cards. Dice also have numbers and arrows, which are important indicators to look at with regards to the storybook. Finally, there are several other types of cards kept nearby. Discovery cards are helpful gear and items the players can discover during their adventure, but usually only if they can pass a test. Between adventures, players can buy equipment from Old Jack's recovery shop, usually by spending found discovery cards. And there are event cards, which the story will force you to draw, sometimes because of story elements, but sometimes because you failed in some task. These are always bad and represent evil creatures and obstacles you'll have to overcome. Usually you'll either have to make a test right away or make a choice with the group, then read the appropriate numbered passage in the storybook. At the start of the game, after following all the setup indicated by the storybook, give one player the walkie-talkie token, indicating that they are the start player each round for this area. When you get to a new area, it will pass left to the next player. Each player will take a turn in clockwise order. On your turn, you have several different actions you may take, but no more than once for each action. First is choosing, which involves the storybook. If there's a choice to be made for an individual, it's whoever is the current player that gets to decide. If it has to be a group decision, you can either do it through simultaneous voting or using the matches. Whoever draws the shortest match must make the choice for the group. When the story allows, the group can move together to a new zone. One player will activate this and move all the miniatures to the next zone. However, if there are creatures or other events still active in the current area, you cannot move. The next type of action is attack. Roll a number of dice equal to your rating with the weapon you're wielding, and remember you want to get as many hits as possible and avoid spiders. Players can also defend from the effects of event cards. In a similar fashion, look at whatever stat the card is threatening and roll that many dice to avoid negative effects. Other actions include using a found item, performing a right card, if you have one, and reorganizing your inventory and sharing with the other players. Finally, an important action you can take is searching if there is a search marker present. Make a trait test with the dice, and if successful, you can draw a discovery card and attempt to claim it. Once finished with any actions you'd like to take, play passes to the next player, and so on and so forth. Continue following along with the book, making choices, searching, overcoming challenges, and so on. If you can make it to the end of the adventure without being overcome, the brave ones will win. That is Tales of Evil. I think what makes Tales of Evil so interesting is that, there are a lot of games out there where you're just literally reading from a book and players are making choices, but it's pretty much on rails, very linear. Sometimes it's more like role-playing games that do that. And some board games do too, but there's just so little actual interaction out there on the board or with players and cards and things like that it just feels like you're just having story time with everyone. Now, the storybook is incredibly important and integral to Tales of Evil, but it's just one part of the experience. Really, it's just the driving force for everything else that's going on. You and the other players have a lot of different actions that you can take on your turn. One of those actions is to make choices according to the book, but there's usually so many different things that you can do, and the ramifications of those actions are something you need to seriously consider. And then out with the spatial element on the board, it's like, okay, well, how fast do we move through this area? We need to have the time to search, but there's this very important thing going on, and evil haunted doll that we have to take care of, or whatever the case may be, fire demon after us. So you really have to think at all times, like, how efficiently can I use my actions? Because while you do have a lot of things you can do, you can only do each of them once on your turn. So learning how to coordinate your actions is also super important. This is a fully cooperative game. One player will be reading from the book, but you all have to be working together at every moment. Sometimes things get tough, and sometimes you have to decide either by simultaneous voting what choice is best, or through the very innovative and interesting and very thematic matchsticks, which you see that in a lot of movies all the time. Draw the shortest straw, the shortest match stick, and in this case they actually implemented it into the game in an actual form, which again very thematic, and that is a hallmark of this game, is how thematic it is, from the characters that you choose and the special abilities that they have, the high quality artwork, and all the different choices that you have to make throughout the story, playing to each of the different characters' strengths. And every character has different stats and different special abilities, different starting unique items, so you can play as different characters each time. Or if you have less players, one player can take control of multiple characters too if you have to do so, or you can play the game solo. And so every game will feel unique to your group. And I mean, look, just right out of the bat with the tutorial storybook, there's a lot of content there, and there's much more to come, of course, in the final version, and potentially through expansion content too. The sky's the limit, you never know. So there's a lot of variety here. It's a very heavily thematic game. It can be as dark and scary as you want it to be, really, depending on who is reading and how well they do that presentation. But again, and I have to stress this, I have to stress two different things. One is that for the strategy-minded people in your group who are okay with playing a cooperative game, but at least want there to be some board, spatial strategy element to it, there is that here. There are decisions you have to make. There are tactics you have to employ. There are ways that you have to use your items in the most efficient way possible, and so on and so forth. But also, this game is not overly complicated to a point where it's going to crowd out people who are casual gamers, people who want the thematic experience but maybe aren't interested in heavily strategic games, or just younger players too, who you don't mind scaring a little bit, potentially. But again, it's all in the presentation of how you want to do it, and because the game is so expandable, you never know what's going to come in the future. So if any of that sounds like it interests you, if you like the theme, if you like the structure of the game and how unique it is, or you know someone who does in your gaming group and the holidays are coming up, it might make a good gift to at least say, hey, I made this pledge in your honor, then at least go to the Kickstarter page and find out more information than I could possibly tell you here. Again, you can do so by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is Tales of Evil from Escape Studios. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.